my sister announced. We're moving into your guest room. Just for 3 months. She has 4 kids. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I said, actually, I'm moving. I wasn't. I just changed my locks. When she showed up with a moving truck and her emergency key didn't work. When my sister's emergency key didn't work, she actually banged it against the doorknob like the lock was personally disrespecting her. It's not working, she yelled down the hallway to her husband, who was standing by the elevator with a clipboard and a smug face. Behind him, the moving guys were already unloading a queen bed and 4 plastic bins labeled with her kids' names. I opened my door from the inside. Her eyes went wide. Why are you inside? She demanded. The key's jammed or something. We need to get the couch up before noon. The movers charge extra. I looked down at the key in her hand, the one I'd given her 2 years earlier for emergencies with the kids. A locksmith had replaced that deadbolt 3 days ago. You're not moving in here, Mia, I said quietly. You were never moving in here. She laughed like I'd told a joke. Very funny. We literally have the truck downstairs. I already told the kids we're staying in Uncle Daniel's guest room for a few months. You live in a 2-bedroom. You don't even have kids. You don't need all this space. My phone was already recording in my pocket. Not because I was planning to go viral. Because my lawyer had suggested I document any surprise attempts at occupancy. That's the level this had gotten to. I'm not joking, I said. And you knew that on Tuesday. Check your email. I watched the moment it clicked. The first crack, when entitlement meets a hard wall of documentation. She looked past me into my apartment like the couch she'd mentally placed there was going to materialize out of guilt. That was the moment I stopped being the backup plan in her head and started being a problem. That was also the moment I realized I was done being the family solution. Not angry, not cruel, just done. My name is Daniel. I'm 36. I'm a senior data analyst for a logistics company, which is a fancy way of saying I live in spreadsheets and tell people when their gut feeling is actually a 27% chance of disaster. I like numbers, don't argue back. If a cell says 4,812, it's 4,812. It doesn't become basically 10,000. You're just remembering it wrong because someone's feelings are hurt. I bought my 2-bedroom apartment 3 years ago. Purchase price for $112,000. Down payment $82,400. My monthly mortgage, including HOA, taxes, insurance, $2,186. I know these numbers the way other people know their children's shoe sizes. I'm the oldest of 3. My sister Mia is 34. My younger brother, Kevin, is 29. Our parents had us young and chaotic. There was always some bill being figured out and some envelope of cash in the kitchen drawer that was already mentally spent 3 times. I was the kid who lined up the overdue notices by due date. Daniel, you're so responsible, my mom would say, handing me the grocery list and her card when I was 13. You're like a little adult. That sounds like a compliment. It's not. Fast forward 20 years. Mom still calls me to ask, can you just log in and see why the utility bill is so high? Dad still pretends not to understand online banking. Kevin forgets to pay me back small amounts that somehow add up to 4 figures. And Mia? Mia discovered that I will always try to solve it if a kid is involved. She has 4 kids, 10, 8, 5, and 2. I know their exact ages because she calls me to vent about how expensive everything is now and ends every rant with some version of, you don't get it. You only have yourself to worry about. Which is half true. I don't have kids. I have a job, a mortgage, and a tendency to say yes if the word eviction is even implied in a sentence. 2 years ago, she called me sobbing. It's just for this month, she said. The landlord's being a monster. We're short $600. If we don't pay, he'll start the process. You know how long that takes, with the courts. The kids can't be homeless, Dan. I transferred $600 that night. Then $400 the next month. Then $300 just to catch up on the light bill. I started a spreadsheet called Mia Loans because that's who I am. Over 18 months, the total quietly climbed to $7,240. Every time I brought it up, it turned into a guilt smoothie. I'm not asking you to give it, she'd say. I'm asking you to lend it. We'll pay you back when things calm down. You make good money. It's easy for you to say no when your life is stable. Easy to say no. Funny, because I never did. The emergency key happened after one of those payments. She needed to drop the kids off while she handled something at the leasing office. It was so much easier if she had a key. It's just in case, she said. Like, what if something happened to you? Then we could water your plants. You know, family. What actually happened was the kids came over constantly, and she treated my place like a free daycare with snacks. I didn't hate it. I liked being an uncle. But the boundaries slowly dissolved from emergency access to, well, the kids were bored, and you have Netflix. Little red flags. I noticed them. I just filed them under better than being a bad uncle. Here's what nobody tells you about being the responsible one in a dysfunctional family. They will use your competence like a credit card with no limit, and then act offended when you check the statement. The first real crack started in April. Mia texted me at 10:42 p.m. Mia, hey, what are you doing with the second bedroom anyway? Me, office. What? Mia, LOL, such a waste. You don't even work from home every day. Me, I like having space. Mia, we're thinking of moving closer to you guys. Schools here are trash. We'll talk Sunday. We did not talk Sunday, she announced. We were at my parents' place, eating overcooked roast chicken. The kids were running around. The TV was on even though nobody was watching it. So, she said, clinking her fork against her glass. We made a big decision. We're moving in with Daniel for a few months. I actually laughed because I thought she meant nearby. Like, in the city. Into my apartment? I asked. Into your guest room, she corrected, like I'd misnamed my own property. Just for 3 months, max. Until we build up a buffer. The landlord here is raising our rent to $2,200. It's insane. You're paying your mortgage anyway. That second bedroom is just sitting there. Everyone looked at me like I'd been told I won the lottery. My mom literally said, "Oh, that's perfect," before I'd responded. I haven't agreed to that, I said slowly. Mia rolled her eyes. It's not a big deal. We'll cover utilities and buy groceries. We're not asking you to pay for us. You don't get how desperate the rental market is with 4 kids. We just need to breathe. Her husband, Marcus, jumped in. Man to man, he said, like we were in a bar and not my parents' sticky dining room. If we crash with you for a few months, we can clear like $5K in debt. Then we're good. You know I'm working on getting more hours. Marcus, working on getting more hours, had been the same phrase for 3 years. Small red flag. They were talking like the plan was already in motion. Bigger one. My parents were nodding along like hosts of a daytime talk show. You guys should have talked to me first, I said. We knew you'd overthink it, Mia said. You always do. This is simple. Family helps family. We already told the kids. They're excited. They call it the big sleepover. Don't be weird. I said, actually, I'm moving. I wasn't. It was the first thing I could think of that might slow her down long enough for me to put everything in writing. That line, don't be weird, has been used on me since I was 6. Translation, ignore your own discomfort so I don't have to feel mine. In their version of the story, I was lucky and selfish with space. In mine, I was being asked to become a free, indefinite landlord to 6 people in an 850 square foot apartment I bought with my own money. I went home that night and opened a new spreadsheet. Tab 1, Mia loans. Tab 2, monthly cost estimate if they move in. Groceries, plus $400. Utilities, plus $120. Wear and tear, furniture, random kid stuff, who knows? The thing that bothered me wasn't the money. It was the expectation that my boundaries were negotiable because I'd been too scared to enforce them before. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern escalated. Mia started texting me things like, I told the kids they'll be closer to their cousins now. Can you send me your building's move-in rules? What's your parking situation? We might need 2 spots for a bit. I kept saying, we need to sit down and talk about this, and she kept replying with some version of, don't stress, it's temporary. Then she posted on Facebook, big changes coming. So grateful for family who open their home when times are tough. #blessed. My aunt commented, you have the best brother. I hadn't agreed to anything. I started waking up at 4:47 a.m. with my heart racing, picturing 4 kids lining up for my bathroom every morning and my office crammed with bunk beds and plastic toys. I pictured work calls with a toddler screaming in the background. I pictured becoming the story. Our evil brother kicked us out with no compassion. Because that's the other part nobody tells you. Entitled people always write the first draft of the narrative. The lever in this story was boring and powerful, the lease and the law. Technically, I own a condo in a building where the association has strict rules about occupancy. Max 4 people per unit. No short-term sublets. No long-term guests without approval. I am the only name on the deed, mortgage, and association records. Mia's plan required my consent in writing. She just never bothered to get it. After another round of group chat pressure, have you told your boss you'll need to work from home more when the kids are there? From my mom. Like it was settled, I made an appointment with a tenants' rights clinic my friend recommended. Let me guess, the lawyer said, after I laid it out. Family wants to temporarily move in, and you're the bad guy if you say no. Pretty much. He explained something I already knew, but needed to hear from a stranger in a blazer. They have zero legal right to occupy your home. If they start using that key without your permission, that's unauthorized access. If they establish residency, it gets messy. The time to draw the line is before a single box crosses your threshold. Okay, but ethically, is it awful if I don't let them? I asked. There's 4 kids. He sighed. Ethically, the parents of those kids should not be announcing housing decisions without securing consent. You are not a bad person for refusing to be their safety net. You're just the only functional adult in a room full of people who like to outsource consequences. That line stayed with me. I went home and did what I always do when I'm scared. I made a list. Changed the locks. Put my boundaries in writing. Notify the condo association of attempted unauthorized occupancy. Stop all temporary financial help. Offer a limited, clear alternative I could live with. At 2:13 p.m. that afternoon, I emailed Mia and Marcus. Subject: housing/boundaries. Hey, I've been thinking about the idea of you guys moving into my apartment. I understand things are tight and that you're stressed. After reviewing my building's occupancy rules and my own boundaries, I need to be clear. I am not agreeing to have you or the kids live in my apartment. My second bedroom is not available for that. I will not be able to host you for a few months or otherwise. I can, however, help in a smaller way. One-time $500 transfer to help with moving costs or deposit somewhere else, or covering a hotel/Airbnb for 3 nights if you have a gap between leases. I'll also be pausing all ongoing financial help, the monthly transfers. I need to get my own budget under control. This isn't personal. I love you and the kids, but I need to protect my home and financial stability. Daniel. I reread it 3 times to make sure it was calm and not a manifesto. Then I hit send. 2 minutes later, the typing dots appeared. Mia, wow. So you're really doing this in an email. Me, want to talk on the phone. Mia, no. I'm shaking right now. I can't believe you would hide behind occupancy rules. The kids were so excited. This is heartless. Then came the group chat messages. Mom, Daniel, can't you just help for a little while? We raised you better than this. Mia, delete that. You're making me look like a beggar. Marcus, bro, this is cold. I didn't argue. I just replied. I'm not hosting you. I've offered what I can. That's my final answer. That night, I called the locksmith. New deadbolt, new keypad, code only I knew. I also had him rekey the emergency lock that used the old key. 3 days later, I got the call from my neighbor. Hey man, he said. There's a moving truck outside with your sister. She just told me they're moving in with you. Is everything okay? Yeah, I said. Everything's about to be okay. By the time I opened my door that Saturday, the moving guys had a dolly loaded with boxes. The truck had "For Seasons Moving" on the side and a phone number. It was 10:03 a.m. Perfect timing, because I told myself I would not engage longer than 30 minutes. Open the door wider, Mia said, trying to push past me with her shoulder. We're blocking the hallway. I stepped out and pulled the door mostly closed behind me. Stop, I said. It wasn't loud. It was just different enough from my usual apologetic tone that she actually did. What is wrong with you? She hissed. You read my email? I said. I'm not agreeing to this. You can't move in here. That email was insane, she said. You don't mean that. You were stressed from work. We talked about this at Mom's. Everyone agreed. You can't just change your mind last minute. I didn't change my mind, I said. I never agreed. She waved that off like a fly. You're being dramatic, she said. The kids' stuff is already packed. We gave notice at our old place. We can't just magically find somewhere else. We're literally homeless right now. Marcus joined us, hands in his pockets. Look, man, he said, in that tone that implies we're buddies. We already told the kids this is happening. Don't make us tell them you care more about your home office than your family. There it was. Weaponized guilt. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cruel. I was tired in a way I didn't know you could be tired. Guys, I'm not making you homeless, I said. You chose to give notice without a signed agreement from me, a lease somewhere else, or savings. That's not on me. Mia's eyes filled with tears on cue. You're really going to do this in front of the movers? She whispered. You're okay with my kids living in a car? The lead mover cleared his throat, staring very hard at a stain on the carpet. He'd probably seen worse. I pulled out my phone. I'm not okay with your kids living in a car, I said, which is why I offered $500 or 3 nights in a hotel. That offer still stands. But you are not moving into my apartment. You can't lock out family, she snapped. That's illegal or something. I have a key. She held it up like it was Excalibur. About that, I said. The locks were changed. 3 days ago, after I sent that email. You don't live here. You've never lived here. You don't have tenant rights in this building. Marcus stepped closer. Seriously, dude, he said. You called a lawyer or something? Yes, I said. I did. And I also notified the condo association that I'm not having additional occupants. So if you try to force your way in or start staying here without my permission, security will treat it as trespassing, not a family issue. That landed. In their version of the story, I was being a heartless rules lawyer. In mine, I was finally using the same precision I use at work to protect myself at home. You're unbelievable, Mia said. After everything I've done for you. After all the times I washed your dog. After all the birthday parties we invited you to. I almost laughed at washed your dog as a counterweight to $7,240 in temporary help. Instead, I said, I've transferred you just over $7,000 in the last year and a half. I've washed your kids. I've left work early to pick them up from school. I gave you that key for emergencies. Not to unilaterally decide that my home is now your backup plan. I'm not doing it anymore. That's not what happened, she said, voice rising. You're twisting everything. I pulled up my email and text thread. On April 3rd, you texted, we're moving in with you, not Qley. On April 7th, at dinner, you announced it to the whole family as a done deal. I sent you an email on April 15th clearly saying no and offering alternatives. You chose to ignore that and book movers anyway. This is not a misunderstanding. This is you refusing to hear no. Silence. The movers suddenly found reasons to check the inventory list at the other end of the hallway. Mia tried a new tactic. You're not well, she said. This isn't you. You're having some kind of breakdown. You've been weird lately, always talking about boundaries and stress. Did your therapist put you up to this? Yes, I said simply. Therapy helped me realize I'm allowed to have a home that isn't a public resource. Her mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. I took a breath. My offer is this, I said. I'll Venmo you $500 right now. I will also pay for a hotel, 2 rooms, for 3 nights. I'll even sit down with you tomorrow and help you make a budget and call some landlords. But you are not moving into my apartment. Today, or next week, or next month. So that's it, she said. You're really going to watch us drive away from your door with nowhere to go? Marcus muttered. We should have never told him anything, under his breath. I looked at the movers, then back at her. You have a truck full of your stuff, I said. You have 2 adults with working phones and 2 sets of hands. You have options. You don't have my guest room. We're even now. You don't owe me anything, and I don't owe you anything. That was my killer line, I guess. Not revenge, just boundaries. I pulled up the hotel booking app on my phone and held it out. Do you want the hotel or not? I asked. She stared at me for a long time. I could see the math happening behind her eyes. If she took the hotel, she was tacitly admitting I'd helped. If she refused, she got to keep the script. My brother left us with nothing. We'll figure it out ourselves, she snapped. Keep your money. She shoved past me, hitting my shoulder with hers. It didn't feel like anything. They told the movers there'd been a mix-up with the building, and they'd have to store everything for a few days. I heard Marcus on the phone saying, yeah, we'll go back to my mom's for a bit. So they had somewhere to go. Of course they did. It just wasn't my place. I closed my door. Then I sat on my couch in the silence and tried to remember how to breathe like a normal person. The aftershocks started about 20 minutes later. First, the family group chat blew up. Mia, well guys, Daniel just locked us out. After promising we could stay. Kids are crying. No idea what to do now. Mom, what? Daniel, is this true? Your sister is saying you literally locked your door in their faces. Dad. This isn't how we raised you. I stared at the screen for a second. Old me would have called, started explaining, gotten talked over, ended up apologizing for being harsh. New me screenshotted my email and posted it in the chat. Then I wrote, I clearly said no on Tuesday and offered help in other ways. They chose to ignore that and show up with movers anyway. I changed my locks because the key was for emergencies, not to override my boundaries. I will not be discussing this further. Mom responded with a paragraph about family coming before rules and you don't understand what it's like with kids. Kevin, who had been suspiciously quiet up to that point, finally chimed in. TBH, Mom, he's been paying for their stuff for ages. Maybe they should have asked first. I almost dropped my phone. Was Kevin defending me? Mia immediately texted him privately and then accidentally dropped a screenshot in the family chat because she's not great with tech, calling him a traitor. That helped. Over the next few days, the tactics rotated. Guilt. You're going to regret this when we're not speaking and the kids ask why their uncle abandoned them. Anger. You're a cold, spreadsheet-obsessed robot who cares more about walls than people. Smear campaign light. She posted on Facebook about finding out what people's true colors are when you need help, and siblings who love their money more than their nieces and nephews. I didn't respond. Not publicly, not privately. I muted the group chat. I set a filter so that emails containing certain keywords, disappointed, homeless, cold, went straight to a folder I did not open. The practical protections held. The condo association emailed me confirming they'd noted on my file that no additional occupants were authorized. Security knew the story. The locksmith's bill, $189, felt like the best money I'd spent in a long time. I canceled the recurring monthly transfer I'd been sending Mia. It was $350. I redirected it to an online savings account labeled Therapy/Peace Fund. 2 weeks later, I started seeing a new therapist who specialized in adult children of chaotic families. You're experiencing withdrawal, she said, when I told her I felt physically ill saying no. You've been the fixer for so long that holding a boundary feels like hurting people, even when you're just refusing to be used. Am I the bad guy? I asked her. Bad for who, she said. For the family system that relies on you to absorb all the consequences? Yes. For yourself? Absolutely not. The immediate chaos slowly turned into a cold war. Mia stopped texting. Mom sent me articles about the importance of community, with no comment, just the link. Dad called once to say, you know your sister's hurting, then quickly changed the subject to sports when I said, so am I. I kept paying my mortgage. I kept using my second bedroom as an office. I slept through the night more often. The funny thing? The world did not end. 9 months later, in January, I ran into Mia at a mutual friend's kid's birthday party. First time we'd spoken since the lock incident. She looked tired but functional, kids running around with cupcake faces. Hey, how's the place? We found a townhome, she said. Farther out, $2,050 a month. Marcus's mom co-signed. We're managing. After a long pause, she sighed. You really blindsided me that day. I sent you an email, I said. Yeah, but you've always caved before. I thought you'd come around. There it was, finally honest. They hadn't misunderstood me. They'd just assumed I'd fold like usual. In my head, I said, that day was me not blindsiding myself. I stopped pretending I was okay with things I wasn't. Stopped letting temporary become forever because I was scared of being the bad guy. The kids miss you, she murmured. I miss them too. I'm happy to see them. I'm just not going to be responsible for housing 6 people again. Ever. That's harsh. Clear, I said. Not harsh. Clear. I'm on Daniel's side here, because Mia announced 6 people would move into his 2-bedroom. Showed up at 10:03 a.m. with a moving truck and an emergency key. Even after his April 15th email said no and offered $500 or 3 hotel nights. What this story teaches us is that in families that treat your home like shared property, clarity has to be written and enforced before a single box crosses the threshold. First, put the boundary in writing, like that subject line email, and screenshot it so the "we thought you agreed" story can't rewrite the facts. Second, secure access immediately, rekey locks, cancel recurring transfers like his $350, and notify your HOA/association so temporary doesn't become residency. What's the lesson you're taking from this one? Would you send the email first or change the lock first?